This is Conrad from the Nursery Company, and here with me today is Mike Finn. And Mike, we're going to touch a little bit about varieties today.
Okay,
I think there's a lot to be said on varieties. It's a big question when I talk to growers. A lot of factors go into selecting a variety. Number one, of course, marketability, right? We got to go to guys like you that understand marketing and where all these are going to go. And the other thing we have to understand on our side is, as a grower, trying to figure out what void we have in our harvest, right, to try to fill that in, especially if you're harvesting yourself. So if we want to talk about varieties, my most popular by far in sales is Nonpareil Monterey.
Yeah.
That just, everybody loves it. You can't hardly beat it in production. Nonpareil, the king of the hill, right?
Nope, for sure. Easy to market, premium almond.
Right.
Make in-shell out of it, even better.
And then you have Monterey. But there's other varieties that fall in there. So if you're looking for something that's earlier harvest, then you get into, the start with Nonpareil. You can go into a Price, Sonora.
That price isn't very relevant anymore, is it?
It isn't, but a lot of people still plant it because all in all, the structure is probably the best tree out there. It used to be a lot more alternate bearing,
Yeah.
like a Sonora is today,
Yeah.
or has been forever. But the nut quality, the tree, and it's just a really easy tree to train. So
Yeah.
they loved it, and they used to grow it a lot back in the old days. And I still have some large growers that like to plant it.
Okay.
Not as much as it used to be, but it used to be a big variety, especially in combinations with Carmel, Nonpareil, Carmel, and Price. They used to be a big deal back
Right.
30 years ago. You probably weren't born then, but that's the way it was.
Thank you.
But anyway, so when you talk about varieties, then you have, say, Nonpareil, Price, Sonora, Aldrich, Wood Colony, Carmel. Don't plant it. It's got bud failure. Then you get into your Montereys. And then if you get into soft fertiles, we have Independence. So we grow a lot of Independence on the nursery. And then you get into your Azani, which is another one that was introduced last year. It's been around for about 8-9 years now in some of the test trials.
This is
it
a
looks very
UC
promising.
variety.
It's a USDA variety. And there's no royalty on it. So a lot of people use it because, if you're trying to, cut back on cost, well, that one's a good one because it is soft fertile. It's a small tree. So starting to offer it, to our growers. But there's that risk, that unknown, right? We just don't know what it's going to do. But it's an option.
But what about Butte Padre? You kind of blew past those guys. They're kind of in the earlier side of harvest.
I was going to get into a Butte Padre because first I was talking about soft shells.
Okay, got it.
Right? Now we're going to go into the hard shells. And, of course, the old standbys is Butte, Padre. Some guys plant Mission still, believe it or not.
Yeah, please don't.
But don't do that, yes. And so Butte Padre is very popular. And back in 07, 08, that's all we grew was Butte Padre.
Yeah.
And then it stopped about 2012, and it got back to Nonpareil. And now there's not enough Butte Padres going around, so there's not, there's a lack of. So a lot of my orders now are coming in back into Butte Padres, so that's helping a lot of this.
Good.
So yeah, there's quite a bit coming in the Butte
But
Padres.
still a small percentage of your total
Very
sales.
small.
Right?
You're
The
talking-
monster is Nonpareil Monterey.
Yes.
Okay.
Nonpareil Monterey Independence is probably our biggest sellers at this point. You still have a lot of Fritz involved. It's just, and here again, it depends on what you're after or what little void you're filling in, and it depends a lot on the kind of soil you have.
Yeah.
If you have real heavy soil, you want to avoid all those late varieties.
Right.
Monterey Fritz doesn't belong there.
You don't want them on the ground when it's raining.
No, so those varieties are good in medium textured soil, sandy ground, where you can get rain today and get in tomorrow.
Can we talk about soil type and independence? I know that people, and maybe I'm completely wrong, but that bacterial blast we had maybe in 2019 sounded like it was independence focused on sandy soils.
Right.
Can you talk about that at all?
Well, it's really difficult because it was notorious for that. So they were having a lot of issues with blast on that, and especially in sandy ground. But then you have a year like this, which we had it again, but Independence didn't have it. You know,
Okay.
in most cases, all the growers that I know that had independence, they got by fine, just fine this year.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the conditions were, you know, weather conditions. Something happened that it didn't.
It was just
It actually
susceptible.
tolerated it pretty
Yeah.
well this year. So even the frost, we've always thought maybe Independence was a little weak on the frost,
Yeah.
and it turned out that it wasn't. So it actually did very well,
Hardy.
very hardy. So you know, it's one of those things I think we learn as we go,
Yeah.
right? We think we know it all, but Mother Nature seems to teach us something every year.
And you have now been licensed through Dave Wilson to grow and market Independence.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes,
Okay.
Dave Wilson Nursery has been really good to us, and we thank them for that. They licensed us, and so now we're able to grow Independence and sell it.
Okay.
So that's thanks to them. We appreciate that.
So that's kind of a new feather to your cap, new ability to go out
Absolutely,
there
it
and
just
market
gives
it.
us a little more arsenal to grow and,
Yeah.
and help out our growers. So
Independence on bare root, kind of a
Yes.
novelty maybe. You know, they're all looking. I've seen the stuff that you've delivered in the past, and just beautiful looking trees.
we've done very well with it. We grow a lot of it on Viking, which
Yeah.
is primarily where a lot of people plant it. And of course, you talk about Independence. I mean, that's a good variety that if you want to invigorate it, because it's a small tree to begin with, right? Everybody always complains that it's kind of an old Merced nut type where the tree grows, and then once it starts producing, you stop getting the vigor.
Right.
It goes into really short spurs. If you're lucky to get 2-3 inch growth out of it, well, when you put it on a Hansen root, you really push it. So
Right.
it's kind of like putting a 350 on a little 4-cylinder car, right? Now you're going to get the boost. So all the growers that have planted it on Hansen or Brights Hybrid or GT2
Yeah.
have really benefited from it. So if you have the soil for Hansen or Brights Hybrid, use it, especially on Independence. I mean, you should be using hybrids on all the roots, on all the varieties
Yeah,
anyway,
right,
because
right.
they're just more resistant to
better.
a lot of things. But, there's certain varieties and rootstocks that really are good matchups. And I think Independence, Yorizani is another one that I think matches up really good with those vigorous rootstocks.
And maybe you could touch back on that Urizani. I've only started hearing about it maybe a month and a half ago. I mean, are we looking like a nonpareil kernel? Are we looking more like a Monterey kernel? What are the kind of... Is it a soft shell, right?
I kind of get away from trying to classify. I kind of leave that to the professionals like you guys.
We're not talking about what you can get paid for it. We're just
Right.
talking about, is it a softer shell like a...
It
like
is a soft
like
shell.
a nonpareil Independence?
It's a soft shell. It harvests about 3 days before nonpareil, which is a little bit early.
Wow.
So the harvest timing is really good,
Yeah.
especially if you have a heavy soil like that. You want to get it on early. The nut quality and size is very good. Color's good.
Lighter end of the color spectrum.
Lighter, yes,
Yeah.
very light. I think it looks closer to a nonpareil color.
Okay, got it.
Very uniform in size. I think the flavor overall.
I was going to
it's
ask
pretty
that.
good. Flavor's good.
Yeah, that was kind of the headwind that Independence has kind of come up against over its life. But
Right.
But yeah, okay.
But so there's a lot of interest on that because of the cost, right? There's
Right.
no royalty on
Right.
it, and it's a USDA variety that was basically made through the funds of the almond board. So basically, all the growers have basically paid for that. So it's a good thing for the growers.
So what is a Urizane on Hansen going to cost me today
to say the Urizani is going to cost you $9 today
on a Hansen
on a
rootstock?
Hansen rootstock or Brights.
Okay, and a Independence on GT2.
It's going to cost you $13.50 a tree.
Okay,
So
and
the difference you can see,
sure.
you get into, it's quite significant.
and can I plant it the Urizane just like I would plant Independence? It's self-fertile, not self-pollinating.
Yes,
Right.
it's self-fertile. You can plant it solid,
Okay.
but keep in mind, time will tell on everything, right?
So this is new. still.
Independence is pretty well proven. We know the pitfalls and where we're headed. Urizani, well, if there's an inherent risk, so be ready for it and understand that. I just think it's adding to
value.
the arsenal for the growers,
for
right?
Sure, for sure.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's untested. It's on the less expensive side of things. You get the benefit of it, where you can come in one harvest, Does it shake well? No, Independence has had issues kind of with stick tights and things like that.
And so far, what we've noticed is it does shake pretty well. It does shake pretty well.
Yep.
Production has been good. But here again, I mean, once you put it in a commercial setting, things change.
Oh, no, for
You know,
sure.
So
For sure.
we just don't know the pitfalls yet. So
Yeah.
that's one of the risks they're going to take. I mean, there's other varieties that they're going to bring on. They're going to be introduced. One of them that looks really promising at this point, but apparently it has a ring spot virus in it. So they're taking it through a 10-step plan to clean it up.
What is
before
ring
they-
spot virus?
Almond varieties usually have ring spot virus. So it's just a virus that goes into the tree,
Okay.
and so the university is very selective about introducing a new variety until it's 100% clean.
Yeah, got it.
So viruses are very known in tree fruit. So in tree fruit they can act one way, which is in a way a benefit, but for the most part you want to get them out and be
Yeah.
always start out clean. So we have to be very careful with that. There's a couple other varieties that they're going to introduce. So in the future there's going to be more varieties, but here again it takes about 15 years to prove varieties, so we
Sure.
got to be careful with that.
Yeah, for sure.
So
Cool.
with that being said, that's all we got for today. This is Conrad and Mike.
Thank
Have a
you.
great day.